Something wasn't right. Elon Musk had spent years perfecting Tesla, revolutionizing the auto industry, and building a company known for cutting-edge technology. But today, he sat in his office, staring at his friend Zach, who had a look that Elon had learned to recognize. Mischief mixed with challenge. "You think you know your company inside out, don't you?" Zach leaned forward, a smirk playing on his lips. Elon shrugged. "I don't think. I do know." Zach chuckled. "That's what every CEO thinks, until they see what's really happening where it matters most." Elon narrowed his eyes. Meaning, Zach said, tapping his fingers on the desk. "You know what your reports say. You know what your managers tell you. But do you know what a regular customer goes through when they walk into a Tesla dealership?" Elon scoffed. "We have the best trained salespeople in the industry. The customer experience is top tier." Zach leaned back, shaking his head. "That's what your numbers show. But what if the numbers don't tell the full story?" Elon tilted his head, curiosity flickering in his eyes. He didn't like assumptions. He preferred facts, data, truth. "All right," he said slowly. "What are you suggesting?" "Go undercover," Zach said, grinning. "Disguise yourself. Walk into your own dealership. See what happens when they don't know they're talking to you." Elon laughed at the idea. Him? In disguise? Absurd. But then, a thought struck him. What if Zach was right? What if he didn't know everything? The idea that had started as a joke suddenly felt like a challenge he couldn't ignore. "All right," Elon said, his voice firm. "Let's do it." Zach's smirk widened. "You're in for a surprise." What started as a simple experiment was about to reveal something Elon never saw coming. Elon Musk tapped his fingers on the desk, thinking, if he was going to do this, he had to do it right. A simple hat and sunglasses wouldn't fool anyone. He needed a real disguise, one that could stand up to close inspection. "I know someone who can help," he said, picking up his phone. A few hours later, he and Zach arrived at a small studio on the outskirts of town. Inside, a woman in a black jumpsuit was setting up her tools. Her name was Mia Chun, a Hollywood makeup artist known for transforming actors into completely different people. "So," she said, crossing her arms, "you want to go undercover as a regular guy?" Elon nodded. "I need to look nothing like myself." Mia studied his face. "We'll need facial hair, different eyebrows, a little work on the nose, and..." She tapped his hair. "Definitely a new hairstyle." She got to work. First, she applied a layer of latex to change the shape of his jawline. Then came a beard, short, a little unkempt, the kind of facial hair that belonged to a man too busy to shave daily. She darkened his eyebrows and made them slightly thicker. Then she adjusted his skin tone with makeup and gave him a slight tan. After 2 hours, she handed him a pair of thin, wire-rimmed glasses. "Put these on." Elon slid them on and turned to the mirror. A stranger stared back. He had the same eyes, but everything else was different. His face was softer, older-looking. He wasn't the billionaire CEO anymore. He was just another middle-aged man. "This is amazing," he muttered. Mia grinned. "That's the idea." But looking different wasn't enough. Elon had to sound and act different too. Zach sat on a chair, arms crossed. "Try talking." Elon cleared his throat. Hello. My name is Eddie Mercer." Zach burst out laughing. "No way. That's just you with a fake beard." Elon frowned. "How about this?" He raised his pitch slightly and softened his words. "I teach high school science. I've been saving for years to buy an electric car." Zach clapped. "Better. Now, walk across the room." Elon stood and took a step. "Nope," Zach said. "That's still billionaire posture. Slouch a little. You're Eddie, not Elon." Elon adjusted his walk, loosening his usually confident stride. "Good," Zach said. "Now, about Eddie's life." They sat down and built his backstory. Eddie Mercer was a 45-year-old science teacher. He had driven the same old Honda Civic for years, but it was breaking down. He had spent the last 3 years saving up for an electric car. He loved technology but wasn't an expert. His budget was tight, and he wanted to compare a Tesla Model 3 with a Hyundai Ioniq before making a decision. Sounds believable, Zach said. One last thing, what if they ask for ID? Elon smirked and pulled out a brand new driver's license. It had Eddie's name, address, and photo, all made by Tesla's security team. Zach whistled. This is serious. Elon put the ID in his wallet. This weekend, he said, Eddie Mercer is buying a Tesla. Eddie Mercer stepped out of his car and took a deep breath. The Tesla dealership gleamed under the afternoon sun, its massive glass windows showcasing rows of spotless electric cars. This was it, the moment of truth. He adjusted his glasses, ran a hand over his fake beard, and walked inside. The cool air hit him immediately, a sharp contrast to the heat outside. The showroom was spacious, modern, and buzzing with activity. Customers strolled between vehicles, running their hands over sleek exteriors, while salespeople in black Tesla polo shirts moved between them, engaging in lively conversations. Eddie took a few steps forward and waited. No one greeted him. A receptionist sat at the front desk, tapping away at her computer. A group of salespeople stood near the Model X, laughing at something on a phone. Another was pouring himself a coffee by the lounge area. Still, no one acknowledged him. He cleared his throat and wandered over to a red Model 3, the car he was interested in. He ran a hand along the door handle and leaned in to peek inside. Nothing. Around him, salespeople rushed to help well-dressed customers. A man in a designer jacket, a couple in expensive sunglasses. Every time Eddie made eye contact with an employee, they quickly looked away. 15 minutes passed. Finally, a young salesman with slicked-back hair and Trevor on his name tag strolled over, looking half-interested. "Finding everything okay?" he asked, barely making eye contact. "Yeah," Eddie said, keeping his voice light. "I'm looking at the Model 3. It'd be my first electric car." Trevor gave a small nod. "Good choice. Entry-level but still got that Tesla power." Eddie smiled. "Can you tell me about the battery range? I have a 40-mile commute each day." Trevor waved a hand. "Oh, you'll be fine. These things go forever on a charge." Eddie blinked. That wasn't an answer. "How many miles exactly?" Trevor sighed, shifting his weight. Like 300 miles or something. More than enough for what you need." Eddie knew the real number was 272 miles for the base model. "What about charging at home?" Eddie asked. "How long does that take?" "Just plug it in overnight," Trevor said, pulling out his phone. "Super simple. You don't need to worry about the details." Eddie frowned. He was getting vague answers, no effort to explain anything. "What about financing?" Eddie pressed. "I'm a teacher, so I have to keep my budget in mind." At the word teacher, Trevor's interest flatlined. "Yeah, we have some options," he said, already looking past Eddie toward another customer who had just walked in. A man in a tailored suit and expensive watch. Eddie noticed the shift immediately. Trevor's posture straightened, his tone sharpened. "Listen," Trevor said quickly, reaching into his pocket. "Here's my card. Take a brochure. Check out the website and we can talk later." Eddie raised an eyebrow. "What about a test drive?" Trevor glanced at his watch. We're fully booked for today, but maybe you can come back on a weekday morning when it's not so busy." Eddie wasn't fooled. Seconds later, the man in the suit approached. Trevor's face lit up. "Welcome to Tesla. Looking for a test drive today?" Eddie watched, stunned, as Trevor immediately arranged a test drive for the new customer. Something he had just said was fully booked. Eddie stood there for a moment, gripping the glossy brochure in his hand. Without a word, he turned and walked out the door. Nobody stopped him. Nobody cared. Zach, waiting outside in his car, raised an eyebrow as Eddie slid into the passenger seat. "Well?" Zach asked. Eddie stared out the window, his jaw tight. "That was worse than I expected." Eddie Mercer pulled into the parking lot of another Tesla dealership, this one in a quieter part of town. It wasn't as flashy as the last one, but it had decent reviews online. Maybe this time would be different. He stepped inside, scanning the room. The layout was similar: bright lights, sleek cars, and a handful of customers browsing. This time, a receptionist greeted him right away. "Welcome to Tesla," Someone will be with you shortly. Eddie nodded and walked toward a blue Model 3, pretending to study the price tag. A few minutes later, a woman in her early 30s, with Dana on her name tag, approached. She smiled, but it felt practiced, like she had already decided how much time she would spend on him. "Looking for your first electric car?" she asked, glancing at his outfit. "Yeah," Eddie said. "I've been saving for a while. I'm a teacher, so I have to stick to a budget." The second he said teacher, something changed in Dana's expression. The warmth faded just slightly. "That's great," she said, her tone a little less enthusiastic. "The Model 3 is our most affordable option." Eddie ignored the shift. "Can you tell me more about the different battery options?" Dana waved a hand. "Oh, all our batteries are top of the line. Tesla's way ahead of the competition." Eddie waited for her to continue. She didn't. "Right," he said slowly. "But what's the difference between the standard and long-range versions?" Dana sighed like he was asking too many questions. "The long-range model goes farther, charges faster, and holds value better." She didn't mention the exact range. She didn't break down the costs. It was just vague sales talk. Eddie pushed forward. "I've also been looking at the Hyundai Ioniq. How does the Model 3 compare?" Dana let out a short laugh. "Hyundai? You don't want that. Those things catch fire." Eddie's jaw tightened. That was completely false. He decided to test her. "Are there any safety concerns with the Model 3? Dana shook her head quickly. "Nope. No issues at all." That was another lie. Tesla vehicles were among the safest, but there had been some battery fire incidents, just like with other brands. Instead of honest information, she was just telling him what he wanted to hear. "Okay," Eddie said, keeping his tone neutral. "What about financing?" Dana perked up at that. "Let's sit down and look at numbers." She led him to a desk and pulled up a screen with financing options. "For a base Model 3, you're looking at $650 per month," she said. Eddie frowned. "That's way more than I expected." She tapped the screen. "Well, that's with our standard interest rate, 7.9%. Eddie's stomach dropped. Interest rates for good credit were around 4%. This was almost double. "That seems high," he said. "I have an 800-plus credit score. Wouldn't I qualify for a lower rate?" Dana's smile tightened. "We have premium financing. Other lenders might give you lower rates, but it takes longer to process. And you don't want to miss out, do you?" There it was, the pressure tactic. Make the customer feel rushed, like they had no better options. Eddie nodded, pretending to think it over. "Are there any extra fees?" Dana hesitated, then flipped to a second page of charges. There were add-ons stacked onto the price. Premium connectivity package, $1,500. Extended warranty, $2,000. Maintenance plan, $1,200. Will locks and paint protection, $800. Eddie raised an eyebrow. "Are these required?" Dana's voice stayed smooth. "Technically, no, but I highly recommend them. You don't want to risk issues down the road." More sales tricks. More pushing unnecessary costs. Eddie leaned back. "I'd like to test drive it first." Dana forced a smile. "We're fully booked today, but you can come back next week." Eddie nodded slowly. He had heard that before. Then, as he stood, he noticed another customer. A man in a Rolex and tailored jacket walk in. Dana brightened instantly. Within minutes, she was offering him a test drive. Eddie clenched his jaw. He had just been told they were fully booked. But for the right kind of customer, suddenly there was space. Eddie took a deep breath, forcing himself to stay calm. He wasn't here to argue. He was here to observe. As he left the dealership, he caught one last thing. A conversation between Dana and another salesman. "Tire kicker," she muttered. "Wasting time on a teacher." Eddie kept walking, his hands balled into fists. Zach was waiting outside. He took one look at Eddie's face. "That bad?" Eddie exhaled. "That's 2 dealerships now. Same pattern. Same lies." Zach nodded. "So what now?" Eddie's eyes darkened. "We find out how deep this goes." Eddie Mercer pulled into the parking lot of another Tesla dealership. unsure of what to expect. The last 2 visits had been frustrating, filled with half-truths, dismissive attitudes, and sales pressure. But this location had outstanding reviews. Customers online raved about the service, calling it helpful, honest, and professional. If Tesla was getting it right somewhere, it had to be here. Taking a deep breath, Eddie stepped inside. The first thing he noticed was a difference in energy. Unlike the last dealership, where salespeople had ignored him, this time, a receptionist greeted him immediately. "Welcome to Tesla. Is this your first visit with us?" Eddie nodded. "Yeah, I'm looking into the Model 3. "Great choice," she said with genuine enthusiasm. "Let me find a product specialist for you." Minutes later, a salesman in his 40s with Marcus on his name tag approached. He had a warm, easygoing demeanor. "Hey there, I'm Marcus. I hear you're interested in the Model 3. "Yeah," Eddie said. "It'd be my first electric car. I'm a teacher, so I've been saving up for a while." Marcus didn't blink at the word teacher. He didn't shift his tone. He didn't rush the conversation. "That's fantastic," Marcus said. "Teachers help build the future, so it makes sense you'd want a car that's part of the future too." Eddie was caught off guard. The other dealerships had dismissed him the second they heard his job. Marcus made him feel like he mattered. "What do you know about electric cars so far?" Marcus asked. "Basics, mostly," Eddie said. "I'd love to understand more before making a decision." "Absolutely," Marcus said. "Let's break it down." For the next 20 minutes, Marcus patiently explained the Model 3's battery, charging options, and maintenance. No vague answers. No pressure. When Eddie asked about the exact range, Marcus pulled up Tesla's official specs and compared real-world results. When Eddie mentioned the Hyundai Ioniq, Marcus didn't lie or dismiss it. "It's a solid competitor," Marcus admitted. "Hyundai's making great strides in EVs, but Tesla still has the advantage in range, software updates, and charging network." It was factual, not manipulative. Then came financing. Eddie braced himself, expecting the same shady tactics as before. Marcus pulled up the numbers and walked him through everything step by step. "With your down payment," Marcus said, "your monthly payment should be around $480, assuming you qualify for a good rate." Eddie sat back. No inflated interest. No fake essential add-ons. Just straight numbers. "And if I wanted to check with my credit union?" Eddie asked. Marcus nodded. "Absolutely. If they give you a better rate, you can still finance through them and buy the car here. No pressure." Eddie blinked. That was the complete opposite of what Raj had told him at the last dealership. "Would you like a test drive?" Marcus asked. Eddie almost laughed. He didn't even have to ask. "Yeah, I'd love that," he said. Minutes later, Eddie was behind the wheel of a fully charged Model 3, with Marcus in the passenger seat, explaining the features without pushing a sale. By the time Eddie returned, he finally understood what the Tesla experience should feel like. As he shook Marcus' hand, he knew one thing for sure. The problem wasn't Tesla. The problem was inconsistency. Inside Tesla's corporate office, Elon Musk sat at the head of a long conference table. The air in the room was tense. Across from him sat Vince Parker, the manager of the Bay Bridge dealership, along with Trevor, Dana, Raj, and the rest of the sales team. They had no idea what was coming. Vince adjusted his tie. "Mr. Musk, we're honored to have you here. We've prepared a presentation on our dealership's outstanding customer service." Elon leaned back in his chair, tapping his fingers on the table. "Before that," he said, "I have a few questions." Vince nodded eagerly. "Of course." Elon's gaze swept the room. "How do you treat customers who don't look wealthy?" Trevor shifted in his seat. Dana's smile faltered. "We treat everyone with respect," Vince said quickly. "Every visitor gets the full Tesla experience." Elon nodded. "Good to hear." He turned to Zach, who was sitting nearby. "Play the clips." Zach tapped his tablet. The large screen at the front of the room came to life. First, footage of Eddie Mercer's first visit played. Trevor ignoring him for 30 minutes, lying about test drives being fully booked. immediately offering a test drive to a man in a suit. Then, Eddie's second visit. Dana dismissing him when he said he was a teacher, giving false information about Hyundai's safety. Raj inflating interest rates and adding hidden fees. The room was silent. Then came the worst part, the recorded conversation between Dana and another salesman. Tire kicker. Wasting time on a teacher. Trevor turned pale. Dana stared at the table. Vince cleared his throat. There must be. I was Eddie Mercer. Elon's voice cut through the air like a blade. Every head snapped up. Trevor's mouth fell open. Raj looked like he wanted to disappear. Elon stood. I experienced your so-called Tesla experience firsthand. You didn't just fail. You embarrassed this company. Vince swallowed hard. Mr. Musk, Elon raised a hand. Save it. I'm not here to listen to excuses. The room felt like it had no air. Elon turned to Zach. We're not done yet. The silence in the conference room stretched. Trevor and Dana looked guilty, but Vince and Raj were different. They weren't just embarrassed, they looked worried. Elon noticed. He turned to Zach and gave a small nod. Zach tapped his tablet, pulling up another file. We looked deeper, Elon said, his voice calm but sharp. And what we found goes beyond bad customer service. Vince tensed. Zach flipped the screen. A list of Tesla VIN numbers appeared, along with sales records. These vehicles, Zach said, pointing, were marked as sold to customers. But he swiped to another page. There's no record of them being delivered. No registered owners. No final paperwork. Raj shifted in his seat. Elon's eyes locked onto Vince. So where did they go? No answer. Zach kept going. We also tracked large wire transfers from private buyers overseas, linked to accounts under different names. But the deposits all go back to 2 accounts. Elon folded his arms. Yours, Vince. And yours, Raj. The blood drained from their faces. Elon exhaled. You weren't just mistreating customers. You were running a side business, selling Teslas under the table, creating fake sales records, and pocketing the difference. Vince sat frozen. Raj looked at the door like he wanted to bolt. Elon leaned forward. That's fraud. A heavy knock sounded. 2 security officers stepped inside. Gentlemen, Elon said, nodding toward them. I think we're done here. Vince shot up from his chair and made for the exit. The officers blocked his path. Raj tried to protest. You can't just. Elon cut him off. We already forwarded everything to Tesla's legal team and law enforcement. Raj slumped back down. Elon turned to the remaining employees. No one moved. I'll ask you all once, Elon said. Who else knew? Silence. He studied their faces. Some looked shocked, others relieved. Trevor swallowed hard. I had no idea. Elon nodded. Then prove it. The officers escorted Vince and Raj out. The door clicked shut. Elon exhaled. Now, he said, glancing at Zach. We fixed this. The room felt lighter after Vince and Raj were gone. But the damage remained. The Bay Bridge dealership was a mess, mistreated customers, dishonest sales tactics, and a culture that had strayed far from Tesla's mission. Elon took a slow breath, looking at the employees still sitting at the table. This doesn't mean the dealership is shutting down, he said. It means we're rebuilding it, the right way. Trevor and Dana exchanged glances. What happens now? Trevor asked. Elon didn't hesitate. First, a secret shopper program. Random customers, people from all walks of life, will visit every Tesla dealership. They'll report on their experience, and if they're treated unfairly, we'll know. Several employees shifted in their seats. Second, Elon continued, new training, not just on how to sell cars, but how to treat customers. From now on, it won't be about pushing expensive models. It'll be about finding the right fit for every buyer. Dana frowned. So, no more aggressive sales goals? Elon nodded. No more rewarding dishonesty. From now on, performance will be measured by customer satisfaction, not just profit. There was a long pause. Then slowly Trevor exhaled. That actually sounds better. Elon turned to Sarah Chun, the manager from the best Tesla dealership he had visited. "You're in charge of implementing these changes here." She smiled. "Consider it done." The Bay Bridge dealership wouldn't shut down. It would transform. And soon, every Tesla location would follow. Elon glanced at Zach, a small smirk forming. "I guess you won the bet." Zach laughed. "Yeah, but you're the real winner." Elon stood in his office, staring at the disguise on his desk. The glasses, the fake beard, the worn-out jacket. All of it had helped him see his company in a way he never had before. He had built Tesla to change the world, to bring electric cars to everyone, not just the wealthy. But somewhere along the way, that vision had gotten lost in some places. "Sometimes," he murmured, picking up the glasses. "To understand reality, you have to experience it firsthand." The problem had never been Tesla's technology. It had been the culture at certain dealerships, the way people were treated based on how much money they looked like they had. That was about to change. Elon placed the disguise in a glass case on the shelf, a reminder of the lesson he had learned. Every customer mattered. Every experience shaped Tesla's reputation. And he would be watching. Now, here's a question for you. If you owned a business, would you ever go undercover to see how things really worked? Drop your thoughts below. And remember, great service isn't just about selling. It's about respect. Until next time.